Real Madrid with a 3-1 victory over Barcelona. Here to reflect on it, Stevie Nicol and Ali Moreno. A lot to get through in this game. Overall, let's start with the fact, Ali, Real Madrid worthy winners?
I thought so. And I think what we saw from Real Madrid today that we didn't see against Cadiz, that we didn't see against Shakhtar in the first half in particular, was energy, was intensity, temperament, character, all the things that you come to expect from a Real Madrid team that we hadn't seen lately. And yet today, this was a team that at the very least was there to compete and was good enough in the day to take advantage of the opportunities in front of them. The more that Barcelona started controlling the game and creating some opportunities and half chances here and there, and they kind of got stretched, that allowed then Real Madrid to take advantage of those spaces and the moments in which Barcelona was unable to defend. And I think no better example than the goal by Valverde, in which he starts his run in the midfield right next to Sergio Busquets, and somehow, as Benzema is allowed to turn by Piqué and Lenglet, Valverde creates that space, generates that gap between him and Busquets, and it paints a clear picture as the lack of athleticism out of Barcelona from the midfield, specifically and especially from Sergio Busquets. That spacing behind is won by Valverde. He scores a goal. And those spaces were available to Real Madrid. If they had been just a little bit better on the counter in a couple of moments, this game could have been over a little bit sooner. However, I think in the end, Real Madrid will take the win. And I think they were deserving winners in the way that they approached the match and tactically how they approached the match. Overall, I thought Real Madrid were better than Barcelona.
Stevie?
I'm not sure I would go as far to say they were worthy winners. You know, as soon as you asked that question, the two things that came to my head were Messi when he left Ramos for dead, and Courtois made a good save, and the header for Coutinho. I think those could have completely changed this game. I would agree with Ali that the Real Madrid we saw today compared with the last couple of games was chalk and cheese. Yes, they had energy. Yes, they got about it. Great goal from Valverde, a great run, although it was assisted by the ineptitude of the Barcelona backline. But listen, if this game had been a draw, I would not have had a problem, because Barcelona, had they taken the chances, not only could they have got something, they actually might have ended up taking 3 points. But listen, I won't argue with the way Real Madrid performed. So I guess for that's how they got the 3 points.
First half, we saw those two early goals, and then there was kind of chances for both teams. It was quite an open match. Start the second half, clearly it was a lot tighter. And then there was the defining moment, the penalty awarded for the pull of the shirt on Sergio Ramos. The referee initially missed it, obviously went to the monitor and gave the penalty that Ramos then duly converted. Ali, this is, of course, the big talking point from the game. Penalty for you?
100% a penalty. And when people, it's funny to me when people say, well, he pulled the jersey, but it wasn't that strong of a pull. Well, wait. Where in the laws of the game does it say the strength of the pull of the shirt must be to the point to where Sergio Ramos can actually be put off balance and therefore impeded, and so on and so on and so forth? No. Was there a pull of the shirt? Yes. Was it unnecessary from Lenglet? Yes. And here's the other thing that I'll tell you about the pull of the shirt by Lenglet. The reason he pulls the shirt is because initially he loses Sergio Ramos. So he doesn't know where he is. And as the ball is being played and he's trying to keep his eye on the ball and he's trying to find Sergio Ramos, the only way that he can do it is by holding on to him. And as Sergio Ramos is now trying to play the ball that is behind Lenglet, then Lenglet pulls him by the jersey and impedes the player. And so therefore it's a foul and, of course, a penalty.
Stevie?
Oh, it's apparently all day long, 100%, as Ali said. And again, we're talking about how I question how kids are being taught how to defend. Listen, when you're defending a ball coming into the box, you have an eye on the ball and an eye on the player. And the reason you have an eye on the ball is so you can judge the flight of it. To go and attack it, or B, you know whether your opponent is going to get anywhere near it either. And Langley doesn't do that. All he's doing is keeping his eye on Ramos. And that's why he ends up pulling him. Because if he had his half an eye on the ball, he would have seen that Ramos wasn't doing anything. He probably wasn't even going to get a touch on it. So the fact that he pulls him is just downright rotten defending. And as Ali said, it's not how hard you pull it. If you pull it, it's against the law. It's a penalty kick all day long.
Stevie, people argue though, but wait, he's pulling in one direction and he falls in the other direction. Ramos is selling this completely, isn't he?
So what? What difference does it make? He's pulling his jersey. Everybody who comes out with that argument starts with, well, yes, he's pulling his jersey. So stop the conversation there. Right. I don't care whether he jumps 6 foot in the air or digs a hole 6 foot in the ground. His jumper's being pulled, so it's a penalty. What happens after that is immaterial.
So then
the other thing, Dan, is that it's a reaction by Lenglet as he initially loses Ramos. He then panics. He doesn't find the ball. He doesn't judge the flight of the ball correctly. And because he's panicking, that's when you see that he's now pulling the jersey. It is, in the beginning of the play, it is a mistake by Lenglet that then he's trying to cover for. And because he's panicking, that's where the pull comes from. And that's when he's impeding the process of the player. Regardless of whether Ramos is a poor diver or not, or a poor embellisher or not, that's not what we're evaluating here. What we're evaluating here and analyzing, is there a pull on the jersey? Yes, there is. It's a penalty.
What surprised me then, because Real Madrid took the lead, Stevie, and then they started to take control of the game, it took up until the 80th minute for Koeman to actually make some changes, to bring on Griezmann, to bring on Dembele.
It's a tough one to give you a defining answer, Dan, because, listen, I played for the side in Liverpool that didn't make a lot of substitutes at all, because, you know, the philosophy was that I trust the players on the field, and the game lasts for 90 minutes, and you can win it in the first or the last minute. The other side of the coin, however, is, does the coach trust the players to bring them on? Does he actually think they're going to do anything? And the fact that he waited so long, in my opinion, tells me that he doesn't really trust them. And we know he doesn't trust Griezmann because he's not even starting. For a guy who's over 100 million, not to be starting tells you that the coach doesn't fancy him. And so putting him on is just he's got some ability. Maybe he'll pop up with a goal. I don't know. So they fling him on. I would suggest Koeman doesn't trust who's sat on the bench beside him.
Ali?
While I agree that Koeman doesn't trust the players that he has available, what I would say is that the players on the field at the time were not giving Ronald Koeman any sign of life either. And so I thought that there was a need for Koeman to make a change just to give the team something different. Because after the Sergio Ramos penalty, you may have thought maybe Barcelona is able to create or generate some momentum, just even based out of desperation. And it never really did happen. And because you needed something different, a little bit of energy coming from somewhere, I thought that there was a time there and an opportunity there for Ronald Koeman to make at least a couple of substitutions and then bring something different on the field. That never really did happen up until the 82nd minute. And the other thing that I'm conflicted about, and the other thing that I don't quite understand, whether you like Griezmann as a player or not, whether he fits with Barcelona or not, the conversation as to why he didn't play against Ferencváros was because, well, there was speculation as to him being rested for this El Clasico match. Well, that rest got really long. And it extended itself all the way to the 82nd minute. Clearly, what we're being told and whatever speculation conversation there is about Antoine Griezmann, Ronald Koeman, that everything is good, everything is fine. I've talked to Antoine, it's great, no problem. He has a role in this team. That role is diminishing by the minute.
What I thought was a little tiresome this week, Ali, is that we heard Piqué come out and criticise the board and the president and all that. And I get everything that's been going on behind the scenes and the frustrations that some of the big players at Barcelona have had. Yet you feel in this sort of game, particularly in the second half, they kind of gave up. That's got nothing to do with the president. That's got to do with you and the pride and the shirt.
And it's not the first time, not even the first time this year or this week. Against Getafe, it was essentially the same reaction or lack thereof, for that matter. That once they give up a goal, it's almost as if, you know what, guys, it's just not happening. And you may be able to accept that at some other club at a different level and in a different stage, but not Barcelona at home at the Nou Camp in El Clasico against Real Madrid. That is unacceptable. And we saw from these players that there was nothing left after the Sergio Ramos penalty. The reaction that you thought was coming never did come. And I would also say, as much as we love Lionel Messi, and as good as he was at times early on in this game, in the last 20 minutes, there was no Messi. And maybe it's a problem with the board. Maybe he's having some issues with what's going on with his personal situation. Or maybe it's the fact that there was no need for him to be on the field against Ferencváros for the last 30 minutes of that game. And yet there he was. And Ronald Koeman, who's poses himself as the boss, as the one making the decisions, as the one making the phone calls, as the one who's telling people that they're going to be here or not here. Well, maybe there was a chance there to rest the player so that he could be the impactful player that you need him to be in a moment like this. And it didn't happen for Messi, and it didn't happen for many other the big names of Barcelona in this particular match against Real Madrid.
And then almost to emphasize... go on, Stevie.
No, I was just sitting thinking, you know, when you're leading up to a game like this and you've got players, particularly the senior ones, still harping on about the board, it smells of two things. One, it smells of a bit of an excuse before the event, but it also smells of they don't trust the people they're standing next to on the field, because otherwise they would have their eye on the ball. They'd be concentrating on the game coming up. Instead, they're too busy covering the backside, blaming the board, and also, in my opinion, it's a bit of a shot at, I don't trust the player standing next to me.
And then who was the player that Barcelona put forward at the end of the game to speak after this defeat? A man who doesn't speak Spanish and has just arrived, Sergino Dest, speaking afterwards, Ali. Obviously, a lot of eyes on him from an American perspective. First US player to play in El Clasico. How would you rate his performance?
I actually thought that Sergino Dest was really good today, and thought that he looked very comfortable. He looked like he belonged. He didn't look like a player who was making his first appearance in El Clasico. He had a real tough job in front of him in handling the speed of Vinicius and also Mendy whenever he added himself into the attack. But I thought that Sergino Dest was very calm, very comfortable on the ball. A couple of moments in which he showed his skill going forward. Could have been better with the final ball and the final decision. But overall, Sergino Dest was, I thought, very good, and certainly far from being the reason of Barcelona losing today. There were far more important reasons and players that you can point at and say, hey, you know what, this guy came up short today. I don't think Sergino Dest came up short. I actually thought he was a very good player today.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.